Hi! Since last week, I've gotten a whole bunch of stuff done. I've been working all week. I spent a big part of the week working on combat, which I think I've improved a bit. I've made enemies faster. I've made player movement better. I've made some animations and stuff like that. I went and played Devil Daggers. I don't know what it is. Devil Daggers, which gave me some insight into how stuff worked. And at a certain point after playing it for a bit, I realized that a lot of the things in the game wouldn't actually work here because this is a constrained environment versus Devil Daggers, which has no walls, no ceiling, just a floor, which makes it a lot easier to program enemy movement and stuff like that. So I did implement some of those things that I found, and eventually I've decided to stop working on combat. I got it to a point of where I thought, like, okay, this is good enough for now, and I want to focus on getting the structure of the game down more than it is now. So now what I'm doing is I found an actual article about game design for Metroidvanias where the guy was talking about how you should prototype by essentially creating a series of rooms that it's totally linear, and in each room you pick up your next upgrade, and to get out of the room you need to use that upgrade. So it gives you an opportunity to see how the progression of the game feels and all that junk. So I'm trying to replicate that. What I've done recently was I've coded a brand new upgrade. So I've got you starting out with the jump as usual. You can jump and go into the next room where you unlock your gun. I added a little bit of gun sway so that it's not totally static. And then here, for this enemy, you actually have to shoot it at its weak point, which is that red spot. And obviously it still disappears. Eventually I'm going to make it a rigid body and just fall down so it kind of ragdolls and then disappear after a bit. And then I'm going to texture it a bit too. And probably change the model. And this door, you can't see it yet, but it requires you to shoot it to get through. So that's the requirement for, that's what you unlock once you unlock this. So now we've got this upgrade. It's the gun, it's the dash upgrade. The dash upgrade is going to be a mostly combat upgrade, but it should be able to get you a little bit more distance when crossing gaps, which I think is super fun. Why isn't this door going back down? That's weird. Huh. Anyway, so the dash upgrade works exactly like a Mega Man dash, except you can't use it quite as often. But essentially, if I keep holding down, or can I hold down shift? No, it's on shift down. So if I hold down shift and move, I can dash to the side. And obviously the effect isn't final. I'm probably going to make it so that the camera rotates a little bit when you dash. And so the gun rotates a little bit, and probably add in a little bit of a blur so that it looks a little bit cleaner, and maybe a few more particles while you're dashing. You can only dash once in the air because I don't want people to be able to chain together dashes to get really far quite yet. So if we like jump out of here, I'm not going to do it right now, but you can only dash once. The next upgrade I'm probably going to add is an improved charge shot. I thought about adding a double jump, which is okay. Double jumps are always super fun, but I wanted to do something interesting. So instead, I want to do like a supercharge shot so that if you keep holding it down, it gets bigger and bigger and then adds reverse velocity when you fire it. So essentially when you jump, oh, I got to make that not collide. But essentially when you jump and let go, it propels you up into the air, which gives you extra distance or gets you a little bit higher once you jump. Sort of like rocket jumping, except instead of using the explosion, you're using the actual force of the shot to shoot you upwards or in any direction that you want. So you can actually get further if you shoot backwards and jump off a platform. Yeah, and then you could always string together a dash and then another jump to get even farther. I really like that idea because it gives you options in combat arenas as well, other than just, jumping and double jumping, which is cool, but it's overdone a bit. Okay, so I've added a new enemy as well. I'm redoing, by the way, all the textures and layouts and stuff like that, because the whole blue colors on the walls, it was stupid and I didn't like it, and I'm just going to change it. I've got a whole bunch of free textures that I'm using. I'm also redoing the entire starting area. I've completely disabled, or not the starting area, sorry, the entire blue area that you saw earlier. I've bought a add-on called Pro Grids, I think it's called, which lets me do grid snapping in Unity, which I previously could not do, which is amazing. It's been so much better for placing stuff and snapping stuff. It makes world building a lot easier. So one problem that I'm having right now, it's not actually a problem yet, but it's something that I'm thinking about that it's going to be a problem later on. So I'm going to have these concepts of rooms, and each room is going to have a set of enemies. And what I don't want to happen is I don't want these enemies to be active while the player is not in the room or near the room. So in each of these, in between these rooms, there's going to be a door like this connecting them. Now, I could have, the problem is that I don't want the enemies to be active, obviously. So I could have each enemy raycasting towards the player and only be active if they see the player. That's one way. The problem is if I have a really big level, I'll have like 100 different enemies raycasting towards the player in every single frame, which is going to cause problems. And I don't think I can do that. So the alternative is, or would be if I could do this, is have a little hallway with a door on each side, and then have, as you walk through the hallway, have the enemies activate right before you enter that room, and vice versa. Now the problem is I don't want the player to have to go through 2 sets of doors between every single room. That would be terrible. So I'm trying to figure out a way to make it so that once you enter a collider next to the door, the enemies on the other side activate, and once you leave it, the enemies deactivate. And that shouldn't be too hard. It's just going to be tricky to get right, especially if I want to do stuff other than doors. I don't know what exactly, but it's going to be a little bit weird. Okay, so on to the actual enemy. So I created inspired from Metroid and Metroid Prime. If I just make this 10, 10. Okay, if I add a cube right here, and if I stick my player inside the cube, put him under here, and bring this down a little bit, and then put the player right, oops, put the player right here. So I've created a crawler enemy. And the crawler enemy is just something that you can pick up and drop at any place in the scene. And it'll actually just, whoops, it'll actually, oh, it's snapping. It will actually just move forward and move along walls, any wall that it contacts. So if I hit play here, and if we look at this crawler, whoa, what just happened here? Oh, I think it was not aligned properly. Yeah. Okay, I got to turn snapping off. That's kind of funny. Why won't you snap? Okay, that's snapped. No, it's not. Vertex snapping is being a little bit wonky right now. I don't know why. Okay, so this crawler right here, I just don't have jump unlocked, which is great. So as you can see, it's moving forward, and then it goes under the platform, and it'll keep going around in circles. So it's just like those big vertical shafts in Metroid that have these, where the enemy will just continuously go around in a circle. Eventually I'm going to give it tentacles. I actually went, and if we look at this model closely, or this mesh, I gave it little spikes. You actually can't see it too well because there's no lights. Can we put it under the light? No? You can kind of see it. There's spikes right here all over the enemy. So I'm going to give it little tentacles that, you know, flop around underneath it, and then it's going to float alongside this anything I put it on and keep going around it. It also does the same thing if I put it up to one of these walls here. So if I hit play here, you'll see it'll go forward, and this effect kind of looks like crap because there's no easy way to do it, but it'll slide up and then it'll keep going around the entire wall. And it'll obviously hurt you if you touch it. Yeah, so that was cool. Okay, so then I've also added or made enemies a little bit more interesting to play against. So let me re-enable all these upgrades. And I'll add a black hole here. Let's put it right here. Enemies, these little enemies are actually a lot more dangerous now. They'll chase you a little bit better, which is cool, but they're still pretty much useless in the grand scheme of things. They're not super dangerous as long as you keep moving, which is what I took from Devil Daggers. And then I created another enemy called a, where did I put it? I don't think I ever, here it is, called a Disruptor, which is much like the, I don't know what they call it in Devil Daggers, but it's very similar. Why can't I place it here? There we go. Enable. It's a big old skull, and this room is actually probably not quite big enough, but if I add a rotation speed of probably 110, I'm guessing. Oh, I need to be further away from it too. Crap. Let's move myself. This enemy actually does not work that well in this room. I need to make it smaller. That's what I need to do. So as you can see, if we can look into here, nope, that doesn't work. Damn it. Where's this collider? Yeah, this collider is way too big. Let's make it 10 by 10 by 10. Okay, there we go. So if we peek into this room, we can see it going around in circles and it kind of patrols. I'll probably later on make it a little bit more of an interesting patrol, but then once we get close enough, as you can see, it will turn and get super pissed off and then bug out, of course, because I made the collider so small. But it'll go crazy and particles will shoot out of it and it'll chase you around until you kill it. So very similar to the Devil Daggers enemies, which gives you some sort of urgency. I'm working on one enemy right now, which I'm not ready to show it off because it's currently broken, but it essentially shoots really fast projectiles at you, so you have to use dash to jump out of the way. And if your dash is on cooldown, you will get hit. So you're basically going to have to kill them as quickly as you see them, or else you're going to take damage. Yeah, right now, I think the next thing I will be doing is creating that charge shot jump. And then possibly an ice barrier to block enemies and shots and to use as a platform for getting up stuff. And then probably we'll continue work on the magnet wall. Do I actually have that magnet wall? No? No. Damn it. At some point I had a magnet wall upgrade. Actually, let's see if I can do that with this. No, it won't be ready. I had a magnet wall upgrade which lets you go on specific surfaces and the gravity would change and you could basically walk up that surface. So it would almost be like a ladder, except that your own personal gravity would shift and your view would shift when you jump on it, which I thought was a cool effect. I might work on that next, actually. So that's this week's update. hopefully by the end of this week, I'll have the entire progression. I can zoom out here and you'll see like 10 different rooms with a bunch of different upgrades. Yeah, that's it. Let me know if there's a way that you can think of that I can improve on this idea that I have of when you get close to this door, when you hit this collider, this room's enemies activate, and then vice versa for this room's enemies will deactivate once you get on the other side of the door. That's going to be really tricky because then you could still see inside this door when you're close to it and this door goes up. I'm going to have to try to figure out a way to make that work. Yeah. All right, so until next week, see you later.